Welcome to the Balance Consciousness Podcast, an assortment of enlightening conversations that inspire balance in your wellness of the mind, body, heart, and spirit. I'm your host, Jessica Taylor, and my intention is that with each episode, we open a channel of communication within our energetic systems, increasing our critical thinking, awareness, authenticity, sovereignty, and empowerment. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's dig in. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Balance Consciousness Podcast. This is episode 3. Thank you so much for joining and listening. If you haven't reached out to listen to episode 1 and 2, I hope you do so. And thank you so much to everyone so far who has been giving love on our first 2 episodes. It's been such a fun journey so far. But today is a brand new day. I am ecstatic to say that I am here speaking with Dr. Lindsey Elmore, and I am so grateful for her taking time out of her busy schedule to give us about 60 minutes or so of her amazing wisdom. Dr. Lindsey Elmore is a board certified pharmacist. She's a functional medicine clinician, a speaker, an author, entrepreneur, yoga instructor, and world-renowned wellness expert. Dr. Elmore has an undergraduate degree in chemistry from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and a doctorate in pharmacy from the University of California, San Francisco. She's the author of Essentials, 75 Answers to Common Questions about Essential Oils and Supplements, also the Clean Slate Cleanse Cookbook and Workbook series, and finally, Bountiful, a phytonutrient cookbook. She hosts the chart-topping Lindsey Elmore Show, a podcast nearing 1 million downloads in just 2 short years. Wow. She is a leader in the mental wellness movement and helps people craft their microbiome to reduce the risk of mental health challenges. Dr. Lindsey Elmore, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and congratulations on your new podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. We just dove in. That's what happens. I'm so
It just starts with one episode.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you're a part of the start of the journey. I don't think that that's an accident, and I feel incredibly grateful for your presence today. So Lindsey, I have been following you for quite some time. And for those of you who don't know Lindsey Elmore, the best way to get started is to follow her on dang Instagram, because she has such amazing daily content that's not only incredibly educational, it also makes you want to research more, which I get so excited about. Let's not come back and just be, lazy and have everything come to us. You give me something and I go, I want to dig into that more. And I love that. Your content is freaking hilarious too.
Thank you.
I just absolutely love it. You're bringing in laughter and joy and love and sassiness and authenticity. And I bring that word in because I see at the headline of your main website, lindseyelmore.com, you say authentic wellness. And it's just absolutely what I feel when I receive your info, that it's genuine, that it's authentic, that you've been through the educational process, probably to the core, and have also been through your own personal experiences. And so it feels like it's coming from a very authentic place. And Lindsey, I just want to start from your website. You have a little bit of your story. I know that you suffered from insomnia at one point. You went to acupuncture for it, just kind of divinely. But I would love to hear a little bit more just about your story, how you found wellness, what sparked your passions, what really turned you off, etc.
So, it all goes back. I always was a learner. Even as a small child, I always loved to teach. I would have rather played school than go outside. And so I was a natural born teacher, and I was also a natural born performer. I loved to sing, dance, be on stage, was never afraid to be bold, even as a very, very small child. And so fast forward, I, was raised by a single mom who took me to work at her doctor's office a lot. This is first where I was introduced to modern medicine, Western medicine. Looking back on it, it's also to where I was first introduced to the concept of pharmaceuticals beyond like childhood medications, which I mean, back in the 80s, we didn't take like we do today. You know, it was a slightly different, it was a different day and age. So I began to develop an acumen for science while simultaneously still studying dance, still studying theater, still studying camera work, still studying even like puppetry, costume design, stage design. I loved performance of all kinds. And so I was going to college. I really wanted to be a performer. And my mom was just like, no, you got to get a real job. So I got a degree in chemistry, always had known I wanted a doctorate. I thought I wanted to go to medical school, decided I didn't want to do that. And then I was going to get a PhD in chemistry. And a bunch of my friends that had PhDs in chemistry that were women came to me and were just like, I don't think it's who you are. Like, I don't think that like putting your head down by yourself and doing the research hour after hour is exactly what you're built for. And I was like, okay, well, crap, now I have no life plan. And then one of them walks in one day and says, I know what you should do. You should be a pharmacist. And so I was like, sure, why not? And so I applied to pharmacy school. I get into the #1 school of pharmacy in the nation, excel at pharmacy school, loved learning, loved the content, loved the curriculum, loved being in an environment that I understood because I'd been around medicine since I was a child. And so decided, of course, as I decided to become as highly trained a pharmacist as you could possibly become. So I did my first year residency in general medicine, internal medicine, and then my second year residency was in ambulatory care. Ambulatory care in pharmacy is what most people would consider primary care. These are walkie-talkie patients, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, smoking cessation, asthma, COPD, chronic pain management. I mean, I worked in addiction medicine. I worked in psychiatry. I worked in a lot of different departments that all had to do with, I guess, what we would call the more common diseases that plague modern America. So all the cardiometabolic diseases and the respiratory conditions that come along with it, et cetera. So I trained in that. And along my residency path, along really my pharmacy journey and my residency path, there were a couple of major things that happened to me. The first is I tore my ACL, which landed me in the chiropractor's office, which landed me in the acupuncturist's office in my first year of pharmacy school. So I also simultaneously to like learning all this pharmacy content was also going to the acupuncturist once a month, going to the chiropractor, understanding that, wait a minute, there's some different ways of thinking out there. I got introduced to shamanic medicine during my second year residency, ended up going and seeking out, I was on staff at the University of Zambia for a little while, just as a visiting scholar, and ended up seeking out shamans there as I was simultaneously training the continent's first group of pharmacists. And so I had this like duality to me, even from the very beginning. And then when I was in residency, I accidentally did a miscalculation and almost killed somebody. And that like sticks with you big time, because you begin to recognize, you hear the statistics of, medical errors, both accidental and known, are arguably the third leading cause of death in the United States. It's arguable, but it is out there in the literature. And so that happens. I end up meeting a patient. He's in his 20s, and I come upon some really hard calculations with him that I knew if he didn't get it right, like if I didn't get the math right and he didn't get the dosing right, he also could die. Like from a known side effect of a medication. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I started to kind of see the chinks in the armor. Then I was an academic pharmacist for a while. And that's where I started to see the very first glimmers of like the political influence on the practice of pharmacy and pharmacy's influence on politics. And that was just a glimmer. It was just a glint in my eye, but I started to realize there's something fundamentally broken. There
Mhm.
is something fundamentally broken with what I am perceiving right now. There is no reason that I should just have this endless string of people constantly facing the same things and constantly being given the same solutions, none of which seem to work. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I had also become unconsciously aware that there are people that live this different way. Like I'd practiced it myself, but I always went back to the hospital. You know what I mean? But then I realized, like, no, there are some people that are just have some fundamental opposition
Mm.
to this. So just started to see the chinks in the armor. And sometimes there are things in life that once you see them, you can't unsee them. And so I just decided to change my life. I decided to leave that life behind and switch, and ended up getting hired by some health and wellness companies, was so grateful to be able to travel the world and like experience other cultures, which really opens up your eyes in a different way. And then about 7 years ago, I decided to start my own company and really do it on my own, and just again, just close another chapter and walk through another door and see what's on the other side. And that's been my journey thus far.
Mm. I absolutely love it. I just feel so honored to hear your story. It's so wonderful. Like I said, I see you on Instagram every day, and it's it's really great to hear it from your childhood. And coming from a fellow performer, I was a professional choreographer and dancer for years, and musical theater buff and all of that. It is really fascinating being, identifying as the performer and then going into something, like I then went into fitness profession and healing modalities and energy work and spirituality, which is incredibly inward. So it's very cool to hear not only just your personality cross hatching in with your work, but then within your work itself, you've gone Western, you've gone Eastern. And I have to say, I always tell my clients, if you're going to see a chiropractor, even better if they, have studied in Reiki as well, or in some sort of naturopathic work or homeopathy or whatever. It's so cool to have people who are professionals who understand, where to bring this in and where to bring that in, because I know if I am a patient coming into a practitioner that way, I feel so incredibly cared for. And I feel like that's an interesting segue into what I've also read on your websites, which I feel very passionate about myself, and to be honest, angry about, which is the concept of not really feeling heard by or taken care of by your doctors. And I am really, really careful when I say this, because every time I bring it up, I try and say I'm not against doctors. It's not a black and white thing. But what I've been hearing a lot lately, for example, is getting labs. We get them back, and there's a huge jump in a number, but they don't question the huge jump because, oh, you're still within range, so out the door you go. And it seems like there's a lack of, in some environments, a lack of questioning, of knowing the patient's history, of things like that. How do you have anything to say specifically on that that can maybe help people like me breathe a little bit more and maybe have more patience or just more understanding?
Well, I don't think it's on us to have the understanding. I think it's on healthcare professionals not to gaslight women with their symptoms. And medical gaslighting is a well-known phenomenon. It's not that we're against doctors. I think that that's patronizing language that we have been forced to indoctrinate, because there's a long history, and the history continues even today, where silencing of dissent of what is considered to be the medical system has been indoctrinated now for over 100 years. It started with the Flexner Report. It continues today. And it even goes back generations before that, where the male figure was considered to be superior to the female. It was more studied, it was more revered, and women were considered to be these tiny men with these reproductive organs that are just too complicated to understand. And so men were the ones that were studied. Because we did not put strategic effort into studying the specific needs of women, we have ended up creating medical standards that are skewed towards the signs and symptoms that men feel as they go through different events, as they experience heart attacks, or as they experience stroke, or as they experience anxiety, as they experience insomnia. Women, when we talk about our experience, we either have a distinctly different set of symptoms. Heart attack is the most classic example. We describe heart attack as chest pain radiating down the left arm. Women experience heart attacks full chest wide in our backs. We experience as headaches. We experience as anxiety. We experience as hyperventilating. We experience as asthma attacks. We perceive it in different ways because women don't have that classic symptom to go, oh, I am feeling chest pain that's radiating down my left arm. Therefore, I am clearly able to communicate with my male physician. This feels like a heart attack, doc. And because we have not really gone deep into the study of even female anatomy has been only described in one way. We only describe we've all seen the graphs of this is how hormones fluctuate across your cycle. We each have one individual pattern of that. Whereas, if we look at men and their reproductive cycles, it's pretty much, it goes up and then it plateaus and it slowly starts to decline. Women go through spikes, ups, downs, plateaus all through the month, every single month. And it changes the way that we need to be caring for ourselves in the way that we eat, the way that we exercise, and the way that we sleep. But because we don't have the vocabulary to describe that, and because women have traditionally been regarded as less able to handle stress, less able to handle life, less able to cope, less able to handle emotional fluctuations. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Can you imagine like a tribe of men without women? They would be lost. They would be lost. If you have a tribe of all women, they're like, we gonna be fine. Like one of y'all gonna get pregnant in like 15 years, right? Tribal women, we'd have been fine. My friend said the other day, and this is so funny. I could not stop laughing when she said it. She was like, she was fussing and she's like, how in Genesis that God's like, he made the man and he decided that it was not good that man be alone. I don't know that he would have done that had he started with woman, because here's the thing too, and not to get like ridiculous and woo woo and stuff, but we have seen species of all women, they learn to be hermaphroditic and they reproduce.
You don't have to worry about getting any sort of extra woo-woo. I can probably get one level higher than you, which is
great. For sure.
But what I was going to say too, speaking to that is, there are ancient, if you're into going deep into ancient spiritual civilizations, even if you're going back to things like, Lemuria or things that are, mystic or whatever, it was more of a matriarchal society. The shamans were women. The healers were the guidance of the tribe. So I love this. I love this talk. And it's kind of a cool segue too, again, speaking to your cross training, you and I both share a really strong passion on helping people specifically with finding consistency in their wellness, right? Like we're such a country, and especially just what Western medicine in general can be so, reactionary over preventative. And I like to lead my life seeking as much preventative day to day as I can, which obviously is a lot more work. And we have to put a lot more energy and research and whatever into it. The basis of my work is self-love. So, hey, I got to do it. I have to put that energy in rather than going for the, convenient quick fixes. I was looking at your Wellness Made Simple site, which we'll keep talking more and more about. And, one of those things that you said in terms of someone who might be called to it is, I'm done with the temporary diets and the, temporary exercise routines, or, we can also take that to pharmaceuticals, this reactionary, steroid or antibiotic or whatever it is. What do you find? Because I have found, as I've been trying to teach this, that the most frustrating thing is it's not frustrating helping them. The most frustrating thing for the client is to gain that new daily habit, that new little baby step every single day. When it comes to consistency, learning more about your wellness and what you're trying to do to help people maintain more longevity, right? Rather than, I just need to fix this one issue. How do you help them broaden their mind and get them to start moving in baby steps, being patient with themselves in the process?
I mean, I have to quote my friend Kelsey, who says it all depends on where does your self-worth come from? Like, where does your self-worth come from? I mean, let's get down to it. We all have the same emotional garbage. Like, we all have the same emotional garbage. And really, if you dig with, I would say, not a vast majority, but there is a majority of women who I feel like it all comes down to, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And so where do you find in yourself that you actually are worthy? Marianne Williamson, it's not that you're scared of failure. You're scared you're absolutely as amazing as you know that you are intrinsically in you. And I also think, stop making it complicated. Like, stop making it complicated. Like, what's my next best step? Any of them. I don't care. You want to get up 5 minutes early and go outside and look at the sun? Awesome. You want to take a hot bath before dinner? Sounds great. You want to stay off of your phone for 30 minutes before you go to bed? Amazing. You want to practice intermittent fasting for 2 hours before you go to bed? Sounds like a great plan. You want to start a journal? Great. You want to get a red light? Go. Awesome. You want to drink more water? It doesn't matter. We all know what we have to do. And so if you're in that position where you're like, I've just got to take this first step. Start with any of them. If you're one of those people who's listening, who's like, I've done all these first steps, I've accumulated them, I feel like I've got decent practice, I'm still not getting where I want to be. Then we start looking at the 8 root causes of disease, and we really dig into each and every one of those. So we have to deal with stress. I don't care how you do it. Any and all of the ways, do it. Be it meditation, be it journaling, be it yoga, be it walks outside, be it whatever. Be it hormetic stressors where you're putting yourself in like ice baths and getting out so that you can be more cold tolerant. I don't care. But we have to deal with stress. If you don't deal with stress, nothing else that I'm about to say is going to matter. The next one's is toxins and toxicants. Okay. So you're still sick. All right. Have you looked at mold around your house? Have you looked at potential allergen? Have you looked at the toxins in your cleaning routine? Are you still drinking alcohol? Are you still using drugs? Like what? And that includes pharmaceuticals. Like those are all toxins and toxicants. Then we look at allergens, antigens, and this is also where food allergies come into play. So we start, okay, have you ever done an elimination diet? All right, so great. You've been cleaning up your diet, but have you ever tried an elimination diet? Have you ever, are you using air filters in your house to try to like get all the allergens, the airborne allergens out of the air? Then we look at infections, infestations, and dysbiosis. So this is like, maybe you do want to test for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or maybe your microbiome in your lower intestines is out of whack. Maybe you've got a low-grade infection because of some dental work that you had done 15 years ago. We can look at that. Maybe you've got a low-grade allergenic response, going back to the A. Maybe you've got a low-grade allergenic response to a breast implant, which is causing the problem. Then we look, so now we're all the way to N, which is our nutrient deficiencies and excesses. Okay. So if you're eating the right number of calories, that's one thing. But if you're deficient in all of your micro minerals, your vitamins, your phytonutrients, that's going to make it harder for you to heal. Then you have sleep. I mean, give it up, people. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. And if you're struggling to sleep, really and truly, I would say start with your sleep routine. I mean, really, because if you can't sleep, you can't de-stress. And if you can't de-stress, you can't do anything else. If you can't de-stress, you can't sleep. And if you can't sleep, you cannot de-stress. Plus, you're just causing chronic brain inflammation because you're not draining your glymphatic system. Then after we get to sleep, we get to socioeconomics. This is where poverty comes into play. This is where lack of access to healthcare. This is where lack of research within your particular demographic group comes into play. This is food deserts. This is gun violence, violence in the home. This is all the adverse childhood experiences that come into play. And as well as genetics are in this. So this is sociogenomics. So this is nature versus nurture, is everything in this step that's happening. And then the last one is sedentaryism, just lack of exercise. And I think we have so much great emerging and, 5-10 years worth of research. We don't need nearly as much exercise. Like the value of doing 3 hours a week of exercise, which is, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes, 6 days a week, over doing none is like dividends and dividends. And so start with the easy ones. Start with the stress, start with the sleep, start with working out, and start with nutrition. If that doesn't work, then we dig deeper into maybe there's an underlying food allergy, maybe there's an underlying Lyme infection, and maybe there is some adverse childhood trauma that needs to be dealt with, or maybe there's truly a genetic component that is going to necessitate medication for life. It doesn't matter. But we just have to start somewhere. And I don't care where you start, just start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is wonderful. And that was such a really nice breakdown for those who haven't heard your words before, to really have just kind of a home to possibly come to of that list. And I love that within that list, it isn't just physical, we're checking in with our emotional and our spiritual and our mental health systems, and seeing, their interconnectedness and how they can really, either lower or heighten each other if we're not careful. That was really, really helpful. Thank you, Lindsey. And with that, and I'm looking at my list again, and I saw that I did write down really big medical gaslighting. And I was like, all right, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Got that. Check.
We got that. So do you feel, because when you were talking about this, the socioeconomic portion really hit me in the heart when you were talking about this. And we can talk about the system all day, and I know we probably shouldn't, but what do you feel needs to change? What solutions do you think need to be created or found in regards to people who do not have access necessarily to the clean eating, to the proper supplements, to air filters for their home, things like that? And I know that that's a hard question to answer, but what do you think what are the solutions that need to be made? And is there anything that the average Joe could do to help with that?
I actually think the answer is very, very simple. We need a functional democracy again. We actually need the democratization of resources within the American populace. We need to not have so many special interests governing our governance. We actually need politicians who don't have huge financial ties to these massive donors that are governing America, of the chief of which is the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry bought the media alongside big agra, big Cosmo, big fashion, big cars, all of it. Big tech is just what a behemoth. And so we need a functional democracy where we have leaders in charge who actually care about the people, not their donors. And how do you fix that is a way bigger question, because you're talking about going back to the very roots of American history. You know, the second law in American history, subsidize wheat and corn. That's the second law in American history, is the subsidies of wheat and corn. And unfortunately, this is going to make you even more sad. I just heard this the other day. Research paper recently came out where there was an agroeconomist, and she was looking at, because everybody says just end subsidies to wheat and corn, okay? And that implies that you could shift subsidies towards broccoli, right? Okay, great. Let's do that. Everybody's like, great idea, end subsidies. She did the analysis of it. If we were to do that, Americans and the globe at large is so addicted to wheat and corn, not only because of our consumptions of processed foods, but also because most of the wheat and corn that's grown today is turned into feed for animals. We are also so addicted to meat that even the ending or reduction of subsidies on wheat and corn and the refunneling it into fresh fruit and vegetables would drop the cost of fruit and vegetables so little and raise the cost of processed food and meat so little that it would be a wash. So we're past this point where we have these simple solutions of just let's end all of this. Ultimately, I think the question, and again, we get woo-woo on the show, I think the question is bigger than us. I think that this ultimately is a battle that's being fought somewhere else. And we just have to stand up for what we know is right, what we know is good. Now, let's bring that back down to earth. And you're like a single mom at home with 3 kids living in a food desert. What do you do? I love my colleague, Lauren Castle, shares a lot. She's been a pharmacist at Walmart for more than 10 years. She shares lots of good content about like how to shop healthfully at Walmart. I don't love the carnivore MD's diet. However, he does go into gas stations. He goes into really not the highbrow grocery stores and says, here is how I shop. Simple solutions. Shop around the exterior of the grocery store. Invest in a good knife, a good skillet, a good cutting board, and a good pot. You know, save some money so that you have tools that make it easier for you to make delicious food. Choose inexpensive herbs and spices, delicious food, simple food. I mean, today I roasted some broccoli, I roasted some carrots, I threw some mushrooms in a skillet, I reheated some day-old rice and called it lunch. You know, simple food can be delicious. Learn to season it, salt, pepper, herbs, spices. And also, I love gamifying health in a way, especially with children, letting them pick out a fruit or a vegetable that they've never tried before at the grocery store, letting them pick a meal that they've never tried before, pick out a spice that you've never tried before. Just do the simple things and always remember the free things. If you're somebody who's got really difficult socioeconomic scenarios, breathing is always free. Learn to master your pranayama, learn to master your breath. Outside is free. And you may say, I live in a polluted area. Then you know what that means. Unfortunately, your indoor air quality is probably worse than the outdoor. So go outside in the morning. Let it wake you up in the morning. Go outside as the sun is setting. Let it kick in that melatonin. Leave the TV off. What else is free? When do you eat? You know, the timings of your meals are great. Also, simple tip, most frozen vegetables has equal the amount of nutritional value of a fresh vegetable. There's nothing wrong. You guys, I put riced cauliflower in my smoothies all the time just to have another vegetable in my life. I always have frozen spinach on hand, frozen mangoes, frozen berries. Leverage frozen food. And when it comes to frozen food, you can leverage bulk shopping at places like Costco, like Sam's, where you could potentially go in with some other families in to make the shopping a little bit less expensive for everyone. So mastering the things that are free, forgiving yourself for not being able to buy everything organic. Give me a break, everybody. I would rather you eat any apple than no apple. I would rather you eat an apple than processed applesauce with 40 grams of sugar in 2 servings. And so, like, don't get dogmatic. Just do one thing at a time.
This is so wonderful. You gave so many tools in such a short amount of time. Thank you, Lindsey. Yeah, it's amazing how it really is a simple solution that then when we dig in is just not so simple. And I do absolutely agree with you that it is a battle that is being done above us, and that what we can do, what we can control is inward, is ourself, are the free things around us, is how we treat each other in the process and how we treat ourselves in that process. So absolutely amazing. And with that, it's kind of a cool segue into a pre-question I asked you before, which was, what do you think that humanity needs the most right now in terms of their health and wellness? And your answer was compassion. Do you want to talk more on that?
So I just had an epiphany yesterday, and so it's still a little bit raw. And I, for years, have said, you know, I believe that people deserve to be healthy. Everything I do is because people deserve to be healthy. And yesterday, I guess it was Monday, 2 days ago, I had this moment where I was like, wait a minute, that's leaving like me out of the equation. Like, I also deserve to be healthy. This isn't a podcast for, you know, I don't run a podcast for people who deserve to be happy. It's because everybody deserves to be happy. And one of the mantras, you know, in theater is those who can't do, teach. If you can't be the performer, if you can't actually sing the operatic solo, you can train other people to do it. You understand it, you just aren't the executioner, right? And so I feel like when we are truly able to become compassionate to all of ourself, it will allow us to be compassionate to the utmost to other people. And I think, honestly, you know, that's one of my favorite things about Christian traditions is the utmost message is love thy neighbor, just you just love them so much, feed them food, go, you know, give them the shirt off your back if they're mean to you. It's one of those things where if we just genuinely cared more about each other, the world becomes a better place. And oddly, a lot of these bigger philosophical issues about, like, how do we fix big pharma? How do we fix big food? They just fall to the wayside because genuine human connection and isolation is a huge source of stress. And that's going back from whence we came. If you are stressed, you cannot heal anything else. And so we have to look at, how do we love ourselves so that we can find that self-worth, so that we can show up each day to just say, I am going to eat some broccoli today. I am going to go outside. I am going to meditate for 1 minute, whatever it is, that allows us to go out into the world and be easier, be gentler. And I think if we will all take a moment to open our eyes, let's open our eyes and realize that our experience is simply our experience. And we all have trauma, and we all have anger, and we all have fear, and we all have this like lack of self-trust. And am I worthy? Take yourself out of yourself and just go, how might another person feel if they had been through this or that or this or that? And genuinely listen to people's responses, genuinely listen to people's responses, because the more that we understand that we're just human beings, we're just all human beings. And for the most part, I don't think this is universally true, because I do think that there is such a thing as good and evil. But for the most part, everybody's so good, and we're doing our best out here. We all battle the same things, and the more self-compassionate we can be towards, hey, 3-year-old self, I see you. Hey, 7-year-old self, I see you. The more that we can understand, like, that person, something happened to them too, that is making them behave in this manner, in this moment. You know, you never know what other people are going through. And if we have compassion for our fellow man, it makes the day to day so much better, which just shifts the energy. It just moves the energy. And so, yeah, self-compassion leads to compassion for humanity. And I think that is a great way to live.
Absolutely. That's so gorgeous. And I loved I mean, it absolutely is like osmosis, right? And you can see the people who are out there doing that, right? Like I notice when I go to the grocery store and, a good 75 or 80% of the people are looking down. They just don't even, I'm in public, and it's just showing how our culture and how our programming and how all of our trauma and our pain and how it's affected us. And it's absolutely amazing in those moments where if I can catch someone's eye and give them a smile, that alone can create a shift. It's almost like I jumped to a different timeline, and maybe their day's a bit different. Those little baby steps are so helpful. And you're so right. I mean, it's the very simple thought process of, we can't give from an empty cup. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we fill up, all of our energetic systems with love and vibrancy, and remove blockages and get more flow away from those stagnancies, that we also start to invite others in. It's almost magnetizing, right? To then be like, hey, you want to join this party? It feels good over here. And there's such a power in numbers, and yet our programming and being in front of our devices constantly, or watching the news, which I stopped doing years ago. And I'm so grateful.
Oh, it makes such a difference.
So grateful. So grateful. I mean, it puts us into such a box, and we're, like I said before, we're reaching for those quick fixes and those conveniences. And then on top of it, social media is bombarded with like this tool, this tool, this tool, this tool. So people don't know where to even begin. They get overwhelmed, anxiety's through the roof. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, but I can see.
But I want to challenge that a little bit. Listeners, are you really overwhelmed, or do you just ignore the fact that it comes down to stress, sleep, what you eat, how you exercise, and human connection? Like, listen, again, so many people are looking for magic. They're looking for the magic pill, the magic bullet, the this, the that, the da, 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 da. The miracle of life is that you can just do the mundane stuff every single day and it amounts to the magic. That's where the key is. We're trying to go, I don't want to sleep, I want to eat like crap, I want to be stressed out all day, and I never want to exercise, and I'm looking for what will fix me.
Mm-hmm.
How's that been going for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really in the choices that we make. And with that, I connect. Do we even speak to our body? Do we even wake up in the morning and say, what's going on, body? How you feeling? Let me even talk to you. You know, the levels of bodily awareness that each human can have fascinates me. It's like one of my big intrigues. Speak to yourself. It's such a powerful thing.
Mhm.
I love that. No, and you're absolutely right. And I find that that's another thing. We make it too complicated, like you said. And when we go back to the basics, when we go to the free things, when we realize that we have the power, that we are empowered with tools to make ourselves healthier, period. And we don't
Mhm.
have to reach out as much to so many other resources, although some resources, obviously, such as you, can be so helpful to get people going. So, Lindsey, I had two quick questions from listeners for you. One was
Sure.
specifically about water. They wanted to know, what are your thoughts on filtration? What kind of water do you drink, as she sips her water? And, like, for example, I'll speak personally. I have an Alexa Pure filter. It filters out most fluorides, things like that. I'm also trying to supplement in by taking things like trace minerals, is there anything specifically, and obviously we were talking socioeconomic, not everyone can afford things like an Alexa Pure or whatever, but what kind of water do you drink?
I drink reverse osmosis water, which is just a pressurized water that goes through several membranes to get out all the salts and particulate matter and minerals and things like that. Um, but if you can't afford a reverse osmosis, or some people swear by Kangen water, some people like alkaline water. People like electrolyte water too, if you're going to use like a cellular transport technology. But that's not a filtration system. That's something that you add to it. But get one for your tabletop if that's the best place to start. If you can't afford an under the sink unit or a whole home unit, because that's the ideal, is if you have a whole home unit where you have really pure water coming from everywhere. But come on, like, not even I have taken the effort to do that or spent the money to do that. But just start with a tabletop. Inexpensive one that I like is from Aqua Gear. That one's really good if you're specifically wanting to get out the forever chemicals. They did recently change their filter to where it doesn't get rid of some of the fluoride that it used to. Berkey's are a more expensive option. They drain so slowly. But they can remove fluoride. They're excellent filters. Water comes out super pure on the other side. Those are great. But if you can't do anything else, just go get a Brita, go get a Pura, like go get whatever. But I personally have a reverse osmosis system that I use. And when I'm out and about on the road, I do think if you can find boxed water, I know it's such a bigger pain to carry, but if you're stuck in a place and you can find it versus using a plastic, do that. Bring a stainless steel or a glass bottle with you to keep refilling with water. And honestly, do your best and forget the rest.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. There was another question specifically about supplements. When is it too many? How do we know if we're taking too many? I know that's a very simple question. And then also just kind of a tag onto that. What is the most optimal way to make sure that we're absorbing those supplements? Obviously, eating organic vegetables, fruits, things like that could possibly have more absorption of certain things. But do you have any recommendations in regards to people who are really getting into supplements, may not know if they're going too far?
There's no one answer to this question. This is a really individual question. How do you know if you're taking too many supplements? Like, I don't know. Can you afford your supplements? Are you foregoing healthy food to get to take supplements instead? Yep, you're probably taking too many.
Mhm.
Are you so I would look at cost. I would also look at quality. I would also look at overlap. I see a ton of people who spend a lot of money on, like, this is my standalone magnesium supplement. This is my standalone B9 supplement. This is my standalone B12 supplement. And it's like, you could just take one multiple vitamin, unless you have a special need for one of those, but you don't have a special need for 12 of those, right? So just grab a good multiple vitamin, multiple mineral supplement and call it a day. Um, I think that you also have to monitor for any side effects of supplements to know, like, okay, maybe I am taking too much, especially if you're on medications. Like, if you're on blood thinning medications, maybe you don't need quite as much of an omega-3 supplement. If you're on, I'm trying to think of another good example, if you're on, oh goodness, if you're on birth control pills, you definitely don't need a St. John's wort supplement because it chews through all the birth control. And so there's no one right or wrong answer, but in general, you want a good multiple vitamin, you want a good prebiotic, probiotic supplement, you want a good omega-3 supplement. You may want some additional vitamin D and magnesium, just depending on your levels. You may want a sleep supplement. You may want an anti-inflammatory supplement, but you may want a cardiovascular supplement with some CoQ10. If you have all of those differential needs, and are you taking too many supplements? No. If you don't have a need for a sleep supplement and you take it anyways, sure, you're taking too many supplements. You do have to use some caution. I'm not trying to be flippant and say that you can't overdose on supplements, but you can and need to be on the lookout for the 4 fat soluble vitamins, which are A, D, E, and K. Those are fat soluble, they accumulate in the fat, and therefore they're more difficult to eliminate from the body. And so you have to be aware of those. But other than that, you're doing okay if you're taking them. I mean, you probably don't want 10 sources of the same adaptogenic herb or the same mushroom or whatever, but this is the same principle as you don't want to be eating the same food every single day. So we want a good mix in our supplements, just like we do with the differences in the foods that we eat throughout the day as well.
Mm, wonderful. Thank you. That's so
Sure.
great. And before I start to get into your wellness simple, which I know we're running low on your precious time, I was asking you in our pre-questions, what are you doing right now specifically for your wellness? And you said turning what I'd normally consider a cleanse into a lifestyle. What do you mean by that?
So, I encourage everybody to ask themselves the question, just like get into like that childlike headspace and just go, what I've always wanted to work on? What I've always wanted to work on? What I've always wanted to work on? And it's too raw and too vulnerable for me to like share with you something that's been on my mind for, I would say, it's 2023. We're talking 6 years. This has been the like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And that this comes to mind. And then the other day, somebody asked me to ask myself, what I've always wanted to work on? And this exact thing comes to mind. And so I finally am like, you know what? I heard a podcast the other day that said, health, change, evolution, whatever you want to call it. If you feel stuck, I want you to envision yourself right now suffering in comfort. You're just suffering. You're comfortable, but you're not really happy. You're only half-assing it. You're just not doing it. Imagine yourself living in one room in a 100-room mansion, and you're just sitting there going, I've been here forever. I got some new pillows. I can put some new curtains up, but you're still suffering, but you're comfortable. I reached a point where I was like, I'm done being comfortable. It's time for me to push past comfortable yet again. I've done it before. I, moved out of my house. I went to college. I moved across the country to go to pharmacy school. I, applied to residency. I left the practice of pharmacy. I left a bigwig job that I had. The list goes on and on and on. Sometimes you get forced to walk through the door, and sometimes you get to make a choice where you go, I have known for so long in my heart of hearts, if I do this one thing, everything else will change. I laugh. Me and a bunch of my friends, we talk about our gut health all the time, and we talk about how important gut health is. And we laugh about, I had 99 problems and fixing my gut solved like 98 of them. What I am challenging you listeners to do right now is, what is that one thing? What is that one thing in your life that you go, I know I don't like this about myself. I know that this is not who I want to be. I know I'm better than this. I know that if I do this one thing, I can get to the end of my life and go, I did it big. Like, I went big on big on big on big. And so that's where I am. That's where I am, is I made a decision. I'm moving into a different room in the house. And I am so excited for the journey, because I am so blessed to have that consciousness, that balanced consciousness, the blessed consciousness, to know that for whatever reason, what I put out there, other people pick up from me.
Mhm.
And if I've been putting out there that vibe of like, other people deserve to be healthy, but I've not truly been believing it for myself, and I'm like pushing at that one thing that I'm like, if I stop doing this, my whole life's going to change. And so
Yeah.
here I am, brand new, a little baby in my new room. I barely got a cot on the floor, but you know what? We're going to hang some artwork, and it's going to be a new room in the mansion.
I love it. I love it. And it's always so inspiring, again, when I meet other healers, practitioners, just professionals in general, who always strive to go back to the student mind, back to the beginner mind, because if we ever say we've arrived, it's over. I think I said in the last episode that, if I ever say that my clients need to be like, bye-bye. Like, I'm done working with you, because there's no way that we've ever learned it all. So that's so beautiful and inspiring. And I'm excited for you. I'm really excited for you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your Wellness Made Simple. I was taking a look over the site, and it is so awesome, Lindsey. Those of you who don't know what Wellness Made Simple is, you can do a monthly or an annual program. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Lindsey. And it's really giving you, things that you can access from home on your own time. It truly is simple information. She uploads info monthly. You can take courses on specific things, watch certain videos. I was looking at some of your upcoming ones, like engineering your microbiome, metabolic takeover, natural birth control options, health benefits of sex, nutrient deficiency for medications, and improving your indoor air quality. And I just got so excited and was like, I need to like start spreading it out, because I'm just going to get too excited about taking in all the info. When did you start this? What made you want to start it? What do you want to say to us about it? Because it's just such a gift.
Oh, well, I love functional medicine so much. And I think that people try to mystify, this root cause medicine, and let's just bring it down to earth. Let's make it easy. Let's make it fun. Let's make it interesting. Let's make it entertaining. And let's make it really simple. And so wellnessmadesimple.us, you can come and get a monthly or an annual subscription. All the content that you mentioned is already on the site. We add content on the regular. We get together once a month and hang out and just talk through all of the different content that we have. And it's just really down to earth functional medicine education that helps you identify the root causes of different diseases and how do we turn them around.
That's so great. And I think one of the main things that I love about this is, like I was saying before, we're just getting bombarded with so many tiny little tools here and there, and influencers trying to grab our attention. And I think sometimes when we're really like, enough is enough, I want to really dig into my wellness in a serious way, we have no idea where to turn.
Mm-hmm.
So this is such a wonderful resource for those who don't know where the resources are. Start at wellnessmadesimple.us. I also just want to plug for Lindsey, her podcast, The Lindsey Elmore Show. She also has an Instagram page, which I believe is just at The Lindsey Elmore Show. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm at Lindsey Elmore and at Lindsey Elmore Show.
Perfect. So yeah, follow her both on her personal page at Lindsey Elmore and the Lindsey Elmore Show. And she also has just her general website that shows everything that she does, lindseyelmore.com. Lindsey, is there anything else that you'd just like to leave as a message to those who might feel frustrated or overwhelmed, or in the state of the world right now, or how to just get back to the roots of their wellness?
Do anything.
Mhm.
Do anything. I love the work of BJ Fogg, where he just says, do it one time. One push-up, you're a person who does push-ups. One glass of water, you're a person that drinks water. 1 minute outside in the sun, you're a person that resets their circadian rhythms. Do anything. And then just make it playful. Just keep changing it up. What do you want to do next? Try it again. What do you think? I don't know. Do I like that? I don't know. Keep playing.
Yeah, I love the idea of making it a fun game at the same time,
Mhm.
that we don't take ourselves quite so seriously, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so beautiful. I mean, Lindsey Elmore, thank you so much again for setting time aside to speak to us and to give us some of your knowledge, and to let us in on your own story and your personal journey. That was such a gift. And I loved our speak, especially on compassion and how we can really open our eyes up to this world. So I appreciate you very, very much.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And to all of you beautiful souls, I honor you for everything that you are and everything that you're going to do for the rest of the day. And I wish you an incredibly balanced rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.